plastic cards, got some numbers in your name and an expiration date, and you guys have all seen one. You purchase now, you pay for it later. You get a line of credit, and so there's a set amount that you can spend. It's not unlimited unless, of course, you have certain American Express cards which don't have any limit, but those are not actual credit cards, and I'll explain that in a minute too. In general, credit cards have high interest rate, 18 to 26 or 27%. So they're usually pretty high. So you end up paying a lot more for what you buy than if you just bought it outright. Impulse buying has been increased by, the popularity of credit cards. That's buying something with no previous intention of buying it. It's usually suddenly, and that's what they count on, and that's why they put all that stuff at the cash register. All the candy and the snacks and the little tiny toys and the stuff. They're like, "Ooh, look at this. It's on sale. Don't you want it?" Ooh. They count on impulse buying. That's what there are entire jobs devoted to store layouts to increase impulse buying. That used to be my job. Benefits. You don't need to carry cash. As opposed to cash, if your credit card is lost and you report it right away, then you don't, you're good, you're covered. Whereas if you lose your cash, well, whoever found it is really happy with you. It can increase your credit score if used wisely. They can bring up your credit score. Also, most credit card companies have online, like online banking, but it's with your online credit card. And so you can access a record of all of your purchases, which is nice if you're itemizing for taxes and things like that. You can have all that there and you don't have to maybe keep as close a track of it. And then some of them come with reward programs, free gas, airline miles, cash back, discounts on certain things. So, that's nice. Okay, the drawbacks of credit card use. Because of the high interest rate, depending on how you use your credit card and how long you take to pay things off, you can end up paying a lot more than they're actually worth. I think I mentioned my friend that used to buy Taco Bell on her credit card. She was probably paying like $9 a taco or something ridiculous. It's, and that'd be great if it was at a fancy restaurant, but it's Taco Bell. Nobody wants a $9 Taco Bell taco. So you need to be careful with that so you're not paying too much for what you're buying. If you're not wise and you're not paying things on time and things like that, you can lower your FICO score. So a credit card can raise your credit score, but it can also lower your credit score. So that depends on how you use it and how responsible you are with it. Also, they can cause financial stress. And by that I mean, if you're not paying careful enough attention, you can rack up a lot more debt than you really wanted to have, which can make your payments higher than you can maybe necessarily afford. And you don't want your credit score to tank. And when you owe a lot of money and you don't want your credit to go bad, it causes a lot of stress. So just be careful. That's all really. The most common kind of credit card, like your Visa, your MasterCard, your maybe not Discover. Visa and MasterCard for sure. JCPenney card, Target credit card, most of the department store credit cards. These are revolving charge accounts. You have a credit line. You have an established maximum, let's say $400. You don't have to pay. If you charge up that whole $400, you don't have to pay the whole thing at the end of the month. You can stretch it out. And then as you pay it down, you can charge back up to $400. As long as you don't go over your maximum, it's revolving. It just can be whatever at any point in time between 0 and 400. You are only charged interest if you carry a balance into the next billing period. So if my billing period goes the 1st to the 30th, and I charge a bunch of stuff between the 1st and the 30th, and then on the 30th I pay it all off, I don't get charged a finance charge. It's only if I carry a balance into the next month that I'm charged a finance charge on that balance. So you can stretch things out over several months, or even depending on how big your limit is, years. But your interest costs are very high. Again, 18 to 26% on average currently. Okay, charge card and a credit card. People will call a credit card a charge card, and people will call a charge card a credit card, and people use charging and credit and interchangeably, but they're actually not the same thing. A charge card is a special kind of a credit card. American Express is a charge card. Diners Club is a charge card. There are some other ones that are store charge cards. You can make purchases on them where they are accepted. They're not accepted everywhere. Technically speaking, your payment is all due at the end of the month. So if I have an American Express, some American Expresses don't have maximums. I could go out and charge a car if I wanted to, but I better have that $20,000 at the end of the month to pay the bill. You have to pay it in full. Now, there's no interest on these. And the reason a lot of places don't accept them is because they charge the merchant a lot of money for the accepting of them. So like if you go to someplace and you buy $50 worth of something on your American Express, the merchant has to pay a percentage of that $50 to American Express. And so that percentage is higher than a normal credit card. And so a lot of places don't take these. Now, if you don't pay it off in full at the end of the month, giant penalties. Yeah, lots of money, lots of charges. Protection Acts. The Truth in Lending Act protects you if your card is lost or stolen. You have to notify them immediately. Now, with a credit card, if you report it and somebody purchased before you reported it, you're responsible for up to $50 of that because you didn't report it fast enough. Then you'll respond. Well, if they charge $20, you'd pay 20 of it. If the purchases are made before you report it. If you report it and then somebody charges, you're no longer responsible. So if somebody uses it before you report it, you're responsible for a maximum of $50. If they try to use it after you report it, you're not responsible for anything. $50 maximum is what you're responsible for, yeah.
For all purchases, not per purchase.
No, for total. Fair Credit Billing Act protects you from errors on your statement. If you find an error on your statement, this allows you to report it, and for them, they have to fix it. Okay. Debit card looks like a credit card, acts like a check. The money comes directly out of your bank account. The difference is as opposed to a check, this is more instant. But there's no finance charges or anything like that. It just comes right out of your account. The Electronic Funds Transfer Act protects debit card users from unauthorized debits. As long as you report it, you're not responsible for anything that was purchased on your debit card. Now, if you don't report it, then it's kind of on you. But if you've reported it, it's not like with a credit card where you have to pay up to $50. You don't pay anything. Now, they're going to do an investigation, but, as long as you're not lying, you're not responsible. And then the Fair Debt Collection Act, if you owe a debt and you're not paying it, they cannot harass you. If they try to call you at work and you tell them you cannot call me, I'm at work, they can never call you at work again. They can call you at home once a day, every day before 9 p.m. By law. They cannot call before 8 a.m. and they cannot call after 9 p.m. And they cannot call more than once a day.
So if they do,
then you can report them for harassment.
And what happens then?
I have no idea. And then they can't use unfair means to collect money owed. They can't threaten you or
Find you and beat you.
yeah, they can't do anything like that. They can't come to your house. He lost his credit card at a local mall. He notified his creditor before the card was used. However, later in the day, someone found the card and charged $700 worth of hockey equipment. How much is he responsible for paying?
0.
Right. Okay, so it's a credit card, right? But he notified them before it was used. So he owes no money. Now, if he had notified them after, how much would he have owed? $50, yeah. No, maximum of 50, not at least, yeah. Okay. Credit card companies issue a monthly statement. So APR, that's your annual percentage rate, is converted to a monthly percentage rate. So you take your annual percentage rate and you divide it by 12. And that gives your monthly percentage rate.
Question.
Yeah.
How would you have the ability to charge something on someone's credit card if you would do credit?
Okay. Average daily balance. Okay, any questions about the monthly rate? You just take whatever the annual rate is and divide it by 12, and that gives you your monthly rate. So this is the percent that they use to calculate your finance charges per the month. They just take your annual and split it by 12. Your average daily balance is the average amount you owed. Okay. This is what's used to calculate interest. And this is a good thing, okay, because what they do is they make an average daily balance versus like whatever the balance was on the last day. Because what if your average daily balance for the whole month, you've only had a $20 balance all the whole month, and then the very last day you charged like $700? You don't want your interest based on just the one day's worth of $700 if the whole rest of the month you only owed $20. So they make the average daily balance, and that keeps it fair. If you owe 7 days, you owe $456.11, and then for 3 days you owe $1,177.60, and then for 6 days you owe $990.08, and then for 9 days you owe $2,021.15, and then 5 days. So because she's going through here and she's charging things and she's making payments, and so it's fluctuating. So we want to find her average daily balance.
So they add that up to know what it would have been.
If you split it, if it was consistent. So first we figure out the number of days. So we add them up. So that's 30 days. Okay. Yeah. Now billing cycles can be 30 or 31 days, or sometimes 28 days. And sometimes if you don't have very good credit, they'll bring it down to like 21 or 26 days. It's up to the credit card company. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the number of days times each amount. Okay. And we're going to take all of this total, and we're going to divide it by 30 because it's 30 days. So when I add all that up, I get, or when I multiply it, I get 3,192.77 plus 3,532.80 plus 5,940.48 plus 1903635 plus 11545.65. I'm going to divide it by 30. And so I'm going to get 4342. Whoops, sorry, 24. Being dyslexic. Really dyslexic. So her average daily balance was $1,441.60.
And then they base their interest rate off of that day.
Yeah, and because if they based it off her last day, they'd be basing it off 2,209. A lot higher. Now they're basing it off of 1,441. So it's almost $1,000 difference in what you're going to be charged interest on. So average daily balance is a more fair interest charge. So her average daily balance is $1,441.60, and her APR is 18%. So first I need to take that 18 and divide it by 12 to get her monthly percent rate. We'll call it her MPR. Okay. So it's 1.5%, which is 0.015. And then we take her average daily balance and we multiply it by 0.015. And that gives us 2162 interest. Okay, so that's how they calculate interest. They take the annual percentage rate, divide it by 12, multiply it by your average daily balance, add it to your bill. Okay, so the billing cycle is a predetermined amount of time that's set by the credit card company, and it can change based on credit score. The lower your score, the shorter your billing cycle. The maximum billing cycle I've ever heard of is 31 days. Because a month, the longest is at 31 days. It's about a month. But if you have really low credit, they might shorten it just until you establish more credit. So it could be probably 21 would be the shortest billing cycle, 21 days or 26 days to 31 days. Most of them tend to be around 30 days. And some credit card companies don't adjust billing cycles. They just always have a 30-day billing cycle period. And then some do. It just depends on the company. Your credit card statement is basically your bill. It's kind of like a bank statement in that it lists all of your activity, and then it lists any charges that you've gotten from the credit card company, like your finance charges or late fees or anything like that, and then it lists how much you owe them, the total amount you owe them, and then the minimum payment due. And it lists your interest rates, and it's got all kinds of information. Your account number, every account has a unique number, and usually the credit card account number is the same as the number that's on the actual card, but not always. Or sometimes it'll be the number on the card with some digits added, or sometimes it'll be part of the number on the card. It just sort of depends again on the company. Like for me, I have a Visa. My account number is the same as my card number. They're exactly the same, but it's not always that way. But like if you call up and you tell them your name, they're not going to know who you are because there could be 30 different people with your name. Your credit line is the maximum amount you can owe. And I'm going to say allowed. You can go over this if you are racking up finance charges and you're maxed out and you're only paying the minimum, then your interest can actually push you over your credit line, and that's bad. Don't do that because that lowers your credit score. It can, yeah, because then your debt is above your available credit limit, and your debt should never be above what you're allowed to owe. You should never owe more than you're allowed to owe. That looks really bad. So, yeah, it sounds bad, right? And then your available credit is the difference between your credit line, which is what you're allowed to owe, and then your balance, which is what you do owe. So if your credit line is $300 and you have charged $100, your available credit is $200. Right? Not bad. The billing date is the date that they write the bill, and depending on how the company does batch mailings, because bulk mailing is cheaper than sending individual mailing. I didn't know if you knew that. Okay, anyway, if you send 100 letters and you send in bulk, it's cheaper. So depending on how they do that batch mailing, it may not be the day that it gets mailed, and it's certainly not the day you receive it. It's just the day that they actually send it through the computer. The payment due date is the day it must be received by. If they do not receive the payment by midnight of that date, you owe a late charge. Even if they receive it the next day, you still owe a late charge. Purchases or transactions are all the purchases. They put the date and the total amount. They don't list them itemized. And they can list them by actual date or by posted date. And posted date is the day that the credit card company receives the transaction. And it just depends on the company as to whether it'll be the actual day or a day or two later. This is where it's kind of backwards. Debits are the amounts you charge to the account, and they're listed as positive. Credits are the amount you pay on the account, and they're listed as negative, which is backwards from a bank account where credits are positive and debits are negative. In a charge account, they list debits as positive and credits as negative because they're talking about your balance owed. So if you're debiting, you're adding to it. And if you're crediting, you're taking away from it. And then the previous balance is the money owed from the previous bill that's carried over to the new bill, whatever you didn't pay off.